And the point of the whole program is to raise awareness of these unsung heroes of the pollinator garden. So we try to find plants that are, not super well known, but are native and appropriate and, serve multiple purposes in the ecosystem. And so, we went running around and was working with the Native Plant Society. We had two candidates, woolly ironweed and what was that? Oh, bone stick. Yeah. And so it was a very, very tight race. I mean, literally, it came down to one vote. Woolly Ironweed won in the last few hours by a single vote, which only goes to show you how important it is to vote, determine the future of the pollinator plant of the year. So that plant, we don't have a photo, but it's a really cool looking plant with bright magenta flowers and these kind of crazy, it's just like bulbs on them. And so I was like, this is so cool. And so then I went and researched, like, okay, where can I tell people to go get this plant? We can do seeds, we can do plugs, whatever. And like everywhere I called or emailed or researched online, nobody had this plant. And so I was like, wow, like I'm going to call Bill Newman at Native American Seed. He said, Monica, we would love to have that plant. We just don't have seeds. And I was like, oh, wow. I called, Donald Gerber and Drake White and Paula Natives and Nectar Bar. Like nobody had the plant. And so I was kind of like, wow, this is the most unknown pollinator plant of the year we've ever elected since 2018. So frankly, that kind of is the whole point of the campaign, is to raise awareness of these plants. So we're throwing it out to all of y'all. Some people have ranches. I know Joan has woolly iron on her ranch. I think we have it out on our place, but honestly, I did not know this plant very well. And now that we've gotten to know each other, I think we'll have a much better relationship going forward. But I encourage all of you, if any of you have this plant, if you need more information, go to the Texas Butterfly Ranch, my website. In the most recent story, I haven't written anything in like 2 or 3 weeks, is the winner of the Pollinator Plant of the Year poll. And there's a beautiful photo of the plant on the website. And if you have this plant, if you have any ideas about cultivation, if you want to share seeds, if you have just tons of it in your yard and you want to dig it up and you're going to compost it, let us know. Because we have tons of people that want the plant, and all kinds of wildlife are thanking for it. So thank you.
Thanks for that helpful information, Monica. And yeah, I have some land also, and I'd love to grow some. If you get any seed, I'm happy to try and protect it from the deer, because that is a problem. Well, I welcome, first of all, do we have any new members here right now in the audience? Any new members showing up tonight? Okay, how about, well, all of you, oh, we do? Welcome, new member, awesome. Returning members, thank you for showing up tonight. Any visitors, people just kind of checking us out. Wonderful. Yeah. Like 6 or 7 people, that's great. And then thank you, Zoom audience, for tuning in tonight. All right, so, I wanted to show you the pictures that I have there, just some photos that I have taken. Bottom one with the tree line right there. I just always am amazed at how oh my gosh, the tree, the gray tree there is of course I'm going to forget the name of it, but it's the grayest tree in the forested area, and then it becomes the lime green tree of no, it's not Condalia. Oh my goodness, it's
that's what it looks like.
No, it's a it's a
Toothache.
no, it's the chapote. How do you say chapote? What is the chapote in Texas persimmon? Thank goodness. Yes. Okay. So it's a Texas persimmon, also known as chapote. And it is the grayest tree in the, around. It looks like it's dying every winter, and then it becomes that lime green color. So I just am appreciating the drastic color change soon to be coming. And then this bottom one, I think it's a red-tailed hawk that was at the top of one of my trees. There, can you see it? Right there, roosting at the very top. And then the top 3, we have agarita, all the berries. It's probably, I have a close-up in the middle of all the berries starting to form. And then one rainy morning, just caught some dew on some of the dying grasses that were laying on top of some puntia cactus. So I thought it was very pretty, and the sun was sprinkled just right. Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay, sorry. So yes, cactus. All right. And there's not a lot to appreciate, but you know, if you look for it, right? So one of the first things that we can discuss tonight is the idea that came from the state that our membership could use some work. Kind of a trend. It's been trending down a little bit lately or last year. So, you know, it's on their radar, wondering what could be affecting that. There was some discussion about it. But I thought I would think of some ways to work on our membership, bring a friend. It's always nice to say, you know, hey, would you like to join me? Maybe meet for dinner before, come here after. Maybe somebody did that here. Volunteer in your community, familiar faces may want to join you. So if you know of an event, if we put out an event that sounds like it might be in your community, it would be great to have you and maybe also another friend who would like to become a volunteer do it together. Talk about us, tell people about us, and yes, Craig?
Go back to 4-chapter membership.
Go back to 4-chapter membership. Okay, yes, I remember talking to you about that before. So, yes. So, you're saying that they only allow you to have 2 chapters memberships right now?
Home and an affiliate.
Okay.
I have this because I was,
Uh-huh.
but because I only have 2, I'm on 2 boards.
Okay.
I can't leave those chapters, but I've had to.
So Craig is an advocate for having 4-chapter memberships. Okay. Yes. Okay. Bring that to the table next time. And follow our social media and share events. So if you go to our webpage, at the very bottom, you'll see all of that. I don't know what that last one is. Does anyone know what the one that looks like a camera? No, the Instagram is the third one. Yeah, yeah, just a camera app. Yeah. I went to it and I'd never heard of it. It was very strange, but
Flickr?
it wasn't even Flickr. No, no, no. Wow. This is when I need my middle school group to tell me, you know, to educate me about all of that. But of course, it's Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, and I don't know the last one. So, Smug Bug, Smug Mug, Smug Mug. Never heard of it, but might look into it. And then so we have, thank you to Jay Collins for informing me of a new app called Wild Thumb. And it's you can scan the QR to download if you'd like. He was just informing me he's been on it, he's downloaded it, he's looked through it. It even gives you a list of nurseries that have native plants. So that would in itself is useful. Pardon me. So yeah, sure. Okay, yes, Haley's going to talk a little bit about this. I didn't realize you.
So just briefly, so this is pretty much an app that allows you to plan out your garden bed step by step. So whether you have an existing landscaping bed or you want to create a new bed or even a plot, it really like walks you through each step of the process. You can figure out the dimensions of the bed and then it kind of graphs it for you and allows you to mock it up with pictures of native plants. And they have a subset of native plants that are pretty readily available at the nurseries that you can kind of play with in your design. So if you want to play around with garden design, it's a pretty cool to try out. So the Texas Parks and Wildlife Foundation developed it, and NPSOT helped provide input into the plants that were selected. And like Diane said, there's nurseries that you can, most of them are like our nice nursery partners from NPSOT. So I'm finding nurseries nearby. Obviously here in San Antonio, we have our nice partners, Pollinatives and the Nectar Bar, but it is a really cool app just to try out. So that's all I got.
Thank you, Haley. And I think I hear the sobs of professional landscapers all one day, you know, if this is a threat. So, but it sounds really cool. So I haven't gotten a chance to look through it, but I'm eager to. Okay, so thanks to the volunteers at Rainbow Gardens Demo Garden. We were there last Wednesday, the 18th. And you can see some of the pictures of how, and that was how it was left for the winter. We left it very natural for, we even have a sign that goes up at the end of the long section that explains why we leave it as like that. And so about 5 of us got to cutting back everything, and you can see in the second picture at the bottom what it looked like after we were done with it. So yes, we cut back a lot of things, and I actually took a lot of the seed, and it is at the donation table. So if you want to get a scoop of that, I apologize. Somehow I left my little baggies on the table at home, but I don't know, maybe you could get a napkin or something and put some in the napkin. I have some in the car. I'll bring some. So yes, and it's just a mixture of all of the seeds that were in there. So it's kind of a mystery of what might be coming up, but they're all sun plants. So plant them in a sunny spot. So the next slide is, we are all full. Thank goodness. Pam is very happy to have, she told me that she was very happy to say that Saw Spring Bloom is completely full with volunteers. We no longer need any volunteers, but certainly if you want to join us there, at the event, March the 14th, at Saws. Okay. Below that, this is just a little information about the HEB native plant sale tabling that's coming up on the 21st, 22nd, 28th, and 29th. We still don't know which HEBs we will be stationed at, but if you're interested and you really want to get on the list right away, you can email me, and I'll make sure to notify you as soon as I get that the notification myself as to what HEBs we got after all. Okay. And that is where we're just tabling, and we're talking to all of the customers going in and out of HEB, handing out free seeds, letting them know about the plants that are there on the shelves that HEB has selected. And they're also really good, great prices. The last one, this one right here, the tree adoption, it's not actually a Native Plant Society event, but Shannon Jackson, who isn't here this evening, I don't think, oh yeah, she had an emergency. She will be tabling at the tree adoption, and it's going to be at Gilbert Garza Park. So it is in an area where an underserved area as far as native plants and tree and other events that we don't usually go into close enough into that area. So this is a Bare Branches Alliance partnership with San Bernardino Parks and Recreation, and Shannon will be hosting, and I'll also be joining her. Okay. Okay, so this slide, it's a little, I apologize. You saw it last time, our event, that the opening was February the 7th, but at the very bottom, it says panelist discussion for Fourth Nature and Urban Garden, February the 28th at 2 p.m. So I got a notification or an email suggesting that people be made aware that there are several, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 different speakers. John Williams, is he here this evening? Is John here tonight? No. Drake White, Moby Warren, Mike Peason, I believe is how he pronounces his name. Cara Garza, and I apologize, I can't see the top one because of the information up there at the top. Oh, but it's the moderator. Yes, okay, so the moderator. And but all of them have a connection to native plants and are all experts in their fields, and I'm sure that you would be receiving some really top-notch information. So that's February the 28th at 2. Then we have March 22nd, board member garden tour at the veranda. Thank you very much to Rocio. She invited the board to have a tour of her beautiful spot, the veranda, and we're really looking forward to joining her at her place. It is her effort. She's going to be showing us her efforts to try and re-native all of the area, right? It has been landscaped, but she's really made a big effort to add native plants. So we're eager to see that.
Diane,
Yes,
did
Angie.
you say on March 1st, there will be an invitation that's emailed out to members only?
Okay, yeah, okay. So on March 1st, there will be an invitation that is emailed out to members only. Yeah, okay, yeah. And then March 28th, Briggs Ranch Model Home Tour with Native Plant Tabling. I put this on the slide because it's really already covered. It's going to be me and one other person at the Briggs Ranch open house event out on 2/11. But they contacted us and asked us if we would be willing to come and talk to their potential homeowners about how to native landscape their yard. So it's something that we've talked about wanting to do, as our chapter has been wanting to do something like this for a while. So we're going to, dip our toes into the pool and see how it goes, and maybe it'll pick up. Who knows? Maybe a word will spread. But at least we'll get to see how it goes and how it feels for us, and see if we want to do this more often. So if you're interested in something like that for maybe your with your HOA or your neighborhood, let me know. You can email me. March 29th, Latino Outdoors, NPSOT Walk at the Arboretum. Peter Hernandez I don't believe he's here either, but that is another event that we have coming up. And then congratulations to NPSOT San Antonio chapter winners of the January BioBlitz. So I took a quote from the email that I received. The participants from your team submitted 1,163 observations, a whopping 45% of the total, and by far the most submitted by any chapter. As a reward for these efforts, we'd like to contribute up to $100 in support of the chapter. And that came from Leah Fenley. Thank you, Leah Fenley. And I think Adam said that her mom was the second highest participant. She earned second place in all of the rankings. So it's pretty exciting to know that. So congratulations to us and all that participated. Off to the right, I just have a little link right here, and I'm a little nervous about clicking on it because, the way things can go. But there is an article here, and it's showing a link between the coffee fields oh, wait, did somebody send it to me here? No, okay. Anyway, so it was some coffee fields, and there has been some kind of collaboration between, I'm not sure what Nature Foundation or has done this, but they're asking for the coffee trees in the fields to not be cut all the way down so that birds can nest in that area much more comfortably. But anyway, I apologize. I'm afraid to click on it because it might mess things up. But
Can we put a link in the next newsletter?
yeah, I'll do that. I'll put a link in the next newsletter. It's a pretty interesting article. I kind of read it very quickly, but and I couldn't find a way to put the whole article into here or a section of it. So next we have the Nice Partner Plant Sale at the Nectar Bar. This is supported by NPSOT. It's April 18th, starting at 10 a.m. Plan to come shop and benefit our chapter. A financial contribution will be made for every plant purchased on this date. I think it's like a 10% contribution. But we do need volunteers. So if you're interested, if you live near the Nectar Bar, which is off of Eckert, Bandera and Eckert area, then we'd love to have you join us there. Okay. It might not be too much of a drive for you. It might be in your neighborhood, but yes, that is the sign up there. Haven for Hope Pollinator Garden, March 8th. Lee Marlowe is heading this up from 1 to 3. It will be pretty much just a cleaning, trimming of their pollinator garden. It's a beautiful garden. It's a wonderful experience, even just to go and just, see all the beauty of that garden. It's very pretty. So again, that is another, that's the sign up there. And then March 14th, we have our Saturday Pollinator Fiesta, Guadalupe State Park from 10 to 2. So that's a GSP, Guadalupe State Park, and we do need volunteers. We have Debbie Simic. She will be actually tabling at that event. Thank you, Debbie. And from 10 to 2, so if you're interested in helping her out and sitting at the table with her or standing, please go ahead and access that QR code. Here are the seed library events in the San Antonio area coming up in the next few months. So Mission Branch and IGO Branch dates. We have one on the 26th of March, April, May, and another one in March at IGO. Thank you, Craig Briska and Brooke Adam, for doing their due diligence. It's a lot of work, I'm sure. All of the seeds.
No experience or skill.
No experience or skill is required to, okay, because it's actual seeding, right?
It's cleaning the
Cleaning the
seeds, putting them
seeds.
in an envelope,
Mhm.
and I'm there and Brooke's there to answer questions.
Okay,
Think sewing circle quilting bee.
so Craig Bruska and Brooke Adam are at the events to help teach anyone or show anyone, guide anyone on how to clean seed. Okay, it's
Just to clarify, it's March 2nd is the next one and it's starting at 6 p.m.
yes,
Yeah.
Just checking.
yes, March 2nd is the next one starting at 6 p.m. Yes. And this was one of my favorite things to do, volunteering at the botanical gardens, cleaning seed. I don't know why. I mean, well, it really worked for me. It helped me to, quiet my brain and just sitting there, one little tiny seed after another, or squishing all of the seeds down in the aspirator. Am I saying that correctly? The thing that with the levels, Craig, where the seeds go down.
Oh,
The bottom.
about the sieves?
Yeah, the sieves. Yes, yeah, that's what I always called them, but I was corrected once before. Okay, so then, pardon me. March 24th, our next chapter meeting. We will not be meeting here. We will be meeting, or we have an event at Brackenridge Park, the Native Plant Exchange and Social. So just come out, hang out. You don't actually have to bring a plant or to go away with a plant. From 5:30 to 7:30 at the Kohler Pavilion at Brackenridge Park. There's some information here at the bottom. It says just up the river from the zoo train depot. It is just off the circle where Toletta and North St. Mary Street. You might want to take a picture of this so that you'll know where to find us. Parking can be found in front of the pavilion across from the Zoo Education Center or at the Eagle train station. So right there where the Eagle train station is, there's plenty of parking there. Probably not going to be too busy on a Tuesday. And this is just some information about what to bring. If you've got Texas native plants in your yard needing thinning or removal, please pot them up soon, label them with both common and Latin name if possible, and then bring them with you to exchange for something new, or simply bring your excess to share with others. Also, don't forget to package and bring any native seeds that you have collected. This is going to be an ideal time for you to acquire some new native plants for your yard and to show your support for the San Antonio chapter of the Native Plant Society of Texas. Will also be a great time to visit with your native plant friends and to make some new plant loving friends. Bring someone. This is going to be kind of a different vibe for us that evening. So looking forward to that. So tonight we have something here. I am sure to get ready, and I didn't. Okay. So tonight's presentation, the title is Preserving Natural Infrastructure in the Texas Hill Country, and our presenter is Ben Eldredge, who is the Executive Director of the Heart of Texas Conservancy, a land trust and civically engaged conservation organization based in Boerne, Texas. Ben will discuss the importance of conserving natural infrastructure in the Hill Country with a focus on policy and conservation easements for preserving the region's waterways, water supply, and mitigating risk to humans in Flash Flood Alley. So looked up some information about Ben. He started his career as the manager of a 5,000-acre ranch and has also been instrumental in shaping development rules, transportation plans, and water management policies in Boerne and Kendall County. In addition to facilitating the conservation of land, Ben also serves on the board of directors at the Cow Creek Groundwater Conservation District. Influences regional groundwater management and participates in state water data initiatives. So we are very fortunate to have Ben Eldredge here with us tonight. So thank you very much for joining.
Hey, good evening. Let me see here. Yeah, I guess I gotta get my presentation up. So, you want to come up and set up the presentation? I'll start talking. I guess I'll turn it like this. Can y'all hear me? So yeah, so I'm in town from Boerne, which is, just west of here, just outside of town. It feels like it's getting swallowed up by San Antonio. At some point, Boerne is just going to be a kind of a suburb of San Antonio. Right now, I'd call it a bedroom community, right? So a little bit about me right quick. I grew up in Dallas, and in Dallas, I was always frustrated by the fact that I couldn't see the sunset because I couldn't see past the houses in my neighborhood. I was frustrated that as I would head north up to what we call 635 or LBJ Freeway, what used to be farm fields started turning into big factories, large scale developments, sprawl. And even when I headed off to college up in New York State, getting a major in New York State, I'm sorry, in environmental science, I would come back to Dallas and it just seemed like it was expanding kind of almost I don't know, like on a petri dish when you see uh something infectious spread. And I don't blame people for wanting to live anywhere in Texas. I get it. I grew like I said, I grew up here, and of course now I live in the hill country, and I can't blame those who want to live in the hill country. It's just that I believe that we can live more kindly on the land than we currently do. And that includes how we develop, that includes, of course, how we treat the land. And of course, I also believe that if we don't course correct how we treat our natural resources and our natural environment, that unfortunately we will suffer the natural consequences of bad stewardship and exploitation of limited resources like our water supply. So,
You're too tall.
oh, I'm too tall.
Oh.
Don't
know how this
you want me to play with it? I mean,
Oh, wait.
there we go. Hey, am I on?
Can,
Am I on?
can anyone tell me how? Wow. How is that? What?
Because the alternative is you tilt it up and it's like double chin
I know.
thinning, right? So,
Can, yeah. About up here.
oh,
Is that
hey,
too close?
that's okay as long as
Not too
am I like really big?
No, you're not, but I feel on.
All right, this is going to be awkward for everybody in the audience, so I'm going to tilt it a little bit up like that. How's that? How's that look? Yes? No, I can't. Well, I can do.
Then he won't be able to.
This can go taller. Let's go 6 feet. Yeah.
Got it.
Okay. Why are you so tall, Ben?
You know, like genetics, I suppose.
How are we now? No, that's so strange.
It's really strange, actually. It seems like I'm like looking right at it. And, uh, right? Yes.
Yes.
Okay, we're good.
It's still.
Good time. Yes. Now it's good. Right there.
Okay. Hello at home. And hello in the audience. Okay. So here's the thing: is that by nature I tend to be oriented toward humanity. Yes, I know that I work for a nature conservancy. I've managed a ranch. I worked at the Civil Nature Center from about 2010, 2013. Got sucked into to what's now called the Heart of Texas Conservancy. It used to be called the Civil Conservancy. Back in 2024, right, that's when I started in January 2024. But basically, really, here's the deal: is that I do care about the natural world. I do care about wildlife. I've been involved with the Monarch joint venture and I know Monica. It's nice to see you again. I've certainly presented many times in NPSOT. I'm a master naturalist and all that stuff. But the truth is, my bottom line is, I'm in this for nature and I'm in this for humanity all together. This is not one versus the other. This is not humans are bad and only nature's good. This is about how do we live in harmony with nature and in mutual respect. And when I was working at the Civil and Nature Center for for most of my tenure, I was actually the director of adult education and citizen science research. And there are two things that I kept telling myself: if I educate enough people, well, then that'll make change in the world. There is truth to that. It just sometimes doesn't feel like it's very durable change at times. I just felt a little bit frustrated. And then as I started to see more and more development come in to the Boerne region, and at the same time seeing more and more trash coming down Cibolo Creek, I started realizing, really, if we're going to influence what's happening in the region, yes, education matters, but so does policy. We had to get very involved in policy. And so for about 6 years there, I was just living and breathing policy, water policy. I was involved with the City of Boerne's Unified Development Code, which is a very environmentally protected Unified Development Code now, transportation planning, you name it. And really one of the things I was constantly after was, it's called low impact development, which and the leveraging of what you could call green stormwater infrastructure. Methods that we can develop while still slowing water down, filtering it, and sinking it into the subsurface. Now, the thing with policy is it's not super durable. The truth is that policy changes, right? Well, here we are, and this is a very nonpartisan speech, okay? But at the same time, one party comes in and you get policy directing us this way, and then another party comes in and you get policy directing us the other way. And the thing is, it's not very durable. And that's where conservation easements come in. What the Heart of Texas Conservancy is we do work still in policy, but we're also a land trust. We put land into conservation, which means we preserve it in perpetuity, protecting it from the ravages of development practices. There are a lot of land trusts in the region. We're just one of them. Ours was founded in 1998, again, as the Civil Conservancy Land Trust. And then when I was asked to take the helm, there was two things we needed to do. My colleague, Donna Taylor, who used to work with me at the Civil, said, Ben, if we're working here, nobody's going to know that we're not the Civil Center for Conservation. They're all going to think we're still that. We have to rebrand. Promise me you'll rebrand if you take this job. And so we did, and we changed to the Heart of Texas Conservancy. If you look at our logo, that's based on the Texas heart fossil. Some know it as what's called a deer heart, but it's really a bivalve. It's a clam. It's clamshell. You find it all over further west of here. And some of my board members, when I pitched the name Heart of Texas Conservancy, they loved it, and they said we should use that as our motto, or our logo, and of course, that's what you see there. But the other thing, too, the reason we named it Heart of Texas is honestly two reasons. One is because that's where I come from. Whenever I thought about why is it that I do the work that I do, I mean, it's not for profit work. I'm not really doing it for money. I mean, let's be realistic. I need a living, but it's not why I do this work. If I wanted to make more money, I'd do something else. I'm doing it because I care, right? And I believe that that's why so many people get involved in conservation, is because they're coming from the heart, including the landowners who decide to put their land into conservation easements with us. And when I've been working in policy, it's actually mostly heart appeals that I make. I try to get into my heart, feel into my heart, and present from that space. Not from up here with ideas, not from here with my throat all nervous, but actually from a place of being in a space of caring for others and caring for everyone. And so it was really important to me to represent that at our organization. And then finally, when it really came together, was I was standing on my back porch, looking up at the night sky. And fortunately, where I am, if I look to the north toward Fredericksburg, there's still some really nice dark sky. And I started humming deep in the heart of Texas. And I've always played with this saying when I would talk to other organizations, and I would say, we need to deepen the heart of Texas. And so for me, that had a double meaning. It's not just that we're deep in the heart of Texas, that we need to deepen the heart of Texas. We need to help people access the love that they have and that they experience when they see a wonderful natural vista or the simple pleasures of trees and butterflies and everything that is nature. So with that said, let's press on. This is from the State of the Hill Country report, which is put out by a group called the Hill Country Conservation Network. It's a collaboration of lots of different nature-oriented organizations, land trusts, advocacy groups, just basically anybody who's in the Hill Country involved in natural resource protections, including federal and state agencies, can participate in the Hill Country Conservation Network. And we produced this document that talks about the growth that we're seeing in the region. I've got a QR code up there if you want to pull up the report. I'll also share that we are in the process of updating this report. But you can see the rate of growth from 1990 to 2020. You can look over there. You can see that Hayes County was growing 195%, Comal County 176%, Kendall County 174%, Bandera, and so on. And that wave just keeps pressing out further into the hill country. And again, like I said, I can't blame anybody for wanting to live there, but we need to be smart about what we're doing to that landscape, because that landscape isn't just valuable as a wonderful region with a rich diversity of endemic species that we care about, but it's actually the water supply for so much of Texas. So going back to the title of my presentation, and I'm actually going to pivot more to conservation easements at some point, but I do want to contextualize it as being very much about protecting natural infrastructure. Now, I'm going kind of logical in this regard, because even though I say that I care about things from the heart and I want other people to be inspired from the heart, the reality is that there is a very practical reason why we want to protect this natural resource. And everything from the groundwater that we drink, which is recharged, right, in the Edwards Aquifer recharge zone, but also sheets off of the Texas Hill Country. Our watersheds are natural infrastructure. Again, they slow water down, they filter it, they sink it in. Now, when water comes on the watershed and sinks in, it actually helps to maintain the base flow of our streams and rivers. And if you don't maintain it as a slower moving base flow, what happens is water sheets off the land really quickly and it bypasses the recharge zone. Subsequently, we do not get that recharge, number one. And number two is we're often carrying more silt, more pollutants into the water. So we want to slow water down and sink it in. That's a very pragmatic reason. Now, of course, the other great reasons are that it enhances our quality of life. It's where a lot of people recreate. People from all over the state and all over the world actually come to the hill country to enjoy its natural bounty. It's just a really neat place. Now, again, I grew up in Dallas. I like Texas. I love Texas, but I live in this part of Texas because for me, it just feels more intimate. It feels like I'm closer to the land. And I enjoy the natural vistas of it. But the other thing too, again, I said that, we're a land trust that works in the hill country, and I said there's lots of land trusts in the hill country. I think it's because when you have these hills and you see them being scalped, scraped clean, developed, it gets to you. You see it and you feel it. When I was in Dallas and I saw those farm fields disappear, kind of didn't strike as much. I wasn't as tuned into the Blackland Prairie and how magical it could be, because I was just some city kid who kind of ventured out. Whereas when you live around here, say you live in Boerne, you see some development going up on a hill, or even as you head out I-10, and you see how they scrape the tops off of those hills, there's something that hurts us. Yeah, I can see all the heads nodding. It hurts. And so in that experience we have also, it has value. It's not just the value of what we love, it's the value to our psyches and to our sense of place in this world. And those hills, protecting that scenery, protecting that playground out to the west, it gives us that sense of a place that we can go and enrich ourselves and heal our hearts and heal our minds and get our sense of space in this world. So to me, that is all natural infrastructure. And so yes, any one of us can go out there and say, hey, you should care about the intrinsic value of nature. But I had a professor in college who said, yeah, but some people don't care about intrinsic value. They only care about financial value or how it serves them. Well, this is how it serves us. This is financial value. This is tourism dollars. This is how it serves us. This is our drinking water supply. You have no water, you have no economy. That's a reality. And that's a reality that actually the hill country was starting to have to get really thoughtful about. I'm on a groundwater conservation district. We are in a priority groundwater management area. And the truth is, if every exempt well in our county was to use its allotment of water that it legally can take out of the groundwater supply, we'd be tapped out. They just straight up tapped out. And so we're very resource constrained. And the truth is the whole state is, including in truth. As great as San Antonio has done as far as securing some water supplies and protecting some of that water, everyone's at risk. That's the reality if we don't get smarter about how we use our natural resources. So just to give you guys some perspective, and I'm sure you know about this, but this is a sort of a geologic map showing essentially how the recharge zone works. You have the drainage area up in the top upper left, that would be the hill country, and the water then of course moves across the landscape, gathers into rivers, and streams, and then makes its way down to the fractures and the karst geology of the recharge zone. Basically, it goes into these cracks that basically the water will just cascade straight underwater. Um, where I was when I used to work at the Cibolo Nature Center, we would have a pretty nice consistent flow coming through the center. It would go through the neighboring Cibolo Preserve. But then once you went down just below the Cibolo Preserve, it disappeared. And so anybody who's gone north of Fair Oaks Ranch on 3351, Cibolo Pete's dry. Well, it's not dry upstream. It's only dry there because the water has gone subsurface. It has become your drinking water. That's the truth. Literally, guys, that has become your drinking water. Okay. That's why you want to make sure that land's protected to filter that water, and that water is good. Now you can see over there, that's that karst geology that I referred to. It looks like Swiss cheese. I also like to call it colander rock. A colander is what you use to, of course, rinse your vegetables and your fruits, etc. But in this case, if your fruits and vegetables are polluted and you're rinsing them off, all that pollutant is going into the groundwater supply. So again, we want to protect that water quality so that by the time it gets into the aquifer, it's as filtered as it can be. And again, that gets back to natural infrastructure. I'm giving you guys that as a talking point. Natural infrastructure. It's not sexy. It has this sort of engineering connotation. It also, though, has the essence of economic value, and it helps people understand that, hey, nature is what we rely on. Fundamentally, it is our infrastructure. All right, now, this shows Uvalde County, and the orange is the conserved lands in Uvalde County. This shows Kendall County, just to the west here. You can see there's Boerne. Sorry to be so Boerne-centric, but, it's home now. And you can see there's all this protected land in Uvalde. Do you guys know why that's protected? How that got protected? Was it a bunch of landowners who just had goodwill?
No, San Antonio protected it.
Thank you, sir. San Antonio has protected. The Edwards Aquifer Protection Program helped secure that land because San Antonio knew that's where your drinking water was coming from. They knew that that land was cheap, but wouldn't stay cheap forever, and that the time to act was as soon as possible. And so they fund multiple initiatives through, really, I think it was through sales taxes to help protect that land. Now that funding has since shifted over to public transportation, which I understand for all the multiple values. And supposedly SAW said they were going to replace this funding stream, and I have yet to see evidence of it. But the point is that is because of the city of San Antonio. That's because of taxpayers saying, yes, we understand that our water comes from nature, and we need to protect nature if we want that water to be clean and clear and healthy. Now look over here again at Kendall County. There's a few little orange splotches. Now, I happen to know there's a few more acres conserved in Kendall County than that because our land trust is one of two in the state that actually doesn't report all of our easements because our landowners had asked us to keep that private. I hope to change that because I'd like you all to see how much we've conserved on this map. But nonetheless, it is nothing close to what's happened in Uvalde County, not even remotely close. Now, the cool thing is that and just here's another way to help you guys understand how important even Kendall County is. So again, Uvalde County was where the cheap land was. That's why San Antonio spent so much money conserving it. There is still some funding. They are still leveraging it to conserve land. They're often matching it with federal dollars and local dollars, like for example, in places like Kendall County. But nonetheless, the funds are limited relative to what they used to be. But look, so there's Kendall County, and notice where the orange is, the relative conserved land. And then look at that Kendall County and notice the recharge zone. Again, how much of that recharge zone is conserved? Not much. That's that lower Glen Rose geology. That's where you get all those caves. That's where you have the Swiss cheese rock or the colander rock, the karst geology. That's that recharge zone, that lighter green area. And actually, it's interesting because the Guadalupe River can almost cease flowing upstream from Canyon Lake. But as you get closer to Canyon Lake, it'll start to flow again. And that's actually the aquifer releasing water back into the Guadalupe River. The river systems and the groundwater supply are intimately connected. So we have to, if we protect the, if we're protecting one, we're essentially protecting the other. Now, this is a photo that was taken by Henry Gass from the Christian Science Monitor. Henry reached out to me and said, "Hey, Ben, I'd like to learn more about what's going on in the Hill Country with development. I hear Boerne's a hopping place. Would you be willing to show me around, introduce me around?" And then he said, I'd like to see a photograph. Yeah, I'd like to take a photograph. Can you think of some development that that might make for a good image for his publication?" And I took him to this development. I'm not going to name it. I'm not going to shame. I'm not going to dox them or whatever. But this is actually on top of that recharge area. This is on top of the lower Glen Rose. And you can see you have all that impervious covered, the sidewalks, the streets, the rooftops. And then, of course, you have the native carpet grass going in, which does not do much to slow water down, sink it in. And certainly that isn't habitat. It's an ecological desert. They took a wonderful, beautiful piece of property in the hill country and turned it into this instead of developing it more smartly. Now, I'm not going to deep dive into conservation development, but suffice to say, there are ways that developers can keep some open space, still build neighborhoods, and create a quality of life and a sellable product that is incredibly desirable to folks. I'll give you one anecdote. KB Homes came to me one day, and I'm shaming. I don't mean to be, but anyways, they came to me because they were building a development near Boerne Lake. And the community was really upset about it, especially about protecting the water supply. And they said, "Hey, we'd like to talk to you. What are some ways that we can green this project up?" And I thought, I'm not going to show up and just greenwash this with you guys. You got to get real. And I told them for two things. One is you need to slow water down and sink it in. The best way to do that is low impact development. And they said, "Oh, geez, how do we do that?" And I said, "You need to get with a certain engineer and make it happen." And they did. So that's awesome. And the second thing I said is, if you're going to sell the hill country community, I mean, the same could apply here in San Antonio, of course. If you want to sell essentially a community that's themed in a natural context or in any context, then you need to preserve some of it. It's too late for that. But you also need the native plants that attract the butterflies and the birds and all that makes the hill country country. So if you don't have that stuff, you're not going to have, this isn't a hill country development. It's just a development in the hill country. And I kid you not, these were not bad people. They're working their job, doing their thing, but it was mind blowing. Oh, you mean they're not going to have those butterflies and birds and all the different cool stuff if you don't have the plants for them? And they couldn't believe it. I mean, yeah, I saw their paradigm just expand and they loved it. It was a great conversation. But I was like, so people just don't know. So go ahead. So
City folks.
city folks. I've been one. So anyway, so in Kendall County, my predecessor, Brent Evans, a co-founder of the Civil Center for Conservation with his wife, Carolyn, he was my predecessor at the Civil Conservancy, now the Heart of Texas Conservancy. And he came to my office one day and he said, "Ben, I think it's time for us to do a conservation bond. What do you think?" And I said, "Brent, you're the perfect person to make it happen." And so he started going, and I really meant it, honestly. At that point, I stood up the city and did a lot of advocacy. So I think he saw me as kind of the guy to do it with him. And I thought, no, you've been around a while. You're of a similar peer group to the commissioners. You have a certain panache about you. He's a character and a half, a lovely guy. And I think you're the guy to do it. And so he started going to the commissioner's office and he would say, "Hey, I have an idea for you." And the answer is no. And there you go. "Okay, Brent. Okay, Brent. Okay, what's your idea?" And he said, "I think we ought to do another parks bond." And because he'd done the first one actually. And because he had already taken no, already put no on the table, he'd basically taken it off the table. And they went, "Okay, tell me more." It was a really clever play. The answer is no, so therefore no's already out there. Now let's move toward the yes. It was a really clever play. He's a social worker, so he's creative like that. So, long story short, we got them very interested, brought in a lot of different groups. The Hill Country Alliance, I'm on their board, so that was engaged. I was involved from the civil side. The Nature Conservancy got involved, and we ended up promoting Proposition A. Now, here's the cool thing about Prop A. It's sort of like with the Edwards Aquifer Protection Program. When we did a poll for how supportive the voters would be, without any marketing, if you just threw it on the ballot day one, you would get 62% of the vote. Right? And then we saw that there was about a 12% that could be swayed. And the key was the right messaging. But we saw that 90%, actually, it was about 92% of Kendall County voters would support, even if they didn't support the proposition, if it passed, would support it being used to protect water resources and water resource land. So we, of course, promoted the bond on that context, which is all legitimate because it's all watershed. You know, it's all our river size, it's it's what feeds our creeks, it's what slows water down, filters it and sinks it in. It helps mitigate stormwater, etc. Flows if you care for the land. And so sure enough, we passed that bond with about 67% of the vote, which maybe it's not a big deal in, say, Bear County or Hayes County or Travis County or Dallas County, but this is Kendall County. All right, this is a very conservative county, to say the least. And it's a pretty big deal. And now there's a lot of eyes on it across the region. People are saying, okay, how is it going to work? How is it working? And so now there's a lot of conservation going on, and we're putting easements in left and right. I've got a whole bunch. The commissioner just today approved supporting a 1,500 acre conservation easement in Kendall County, which, if anybody knows about Kendall County real estate, it's pretty incredible that they're getting it for literally $1,000 an acre. That is, yeah, really incredible. Yeah, there's land that we're putting into conservation that I've had estimates ranging from 50,000 to 100,000 an acre, and the landowner's only asking for the cost to put it in a conservation easement about $1,000 an acre. It's immense. So that's, again, people showing up with their heart, but it's nice to also have a little bit of incentive. And certainly with the cost of conservation easements, it's nice to have somebody pay the cost, because we'll get to that. But, well, suffice to say, it's about the cost of a luxury car. And not everybody can afford a luxury car. And some people have lots of land and not even remotely close to enough in the bank to afford a luxury car. So, why conserve your land? This is kind of a slide that's really based around pitching to landowners, but, to safeguard family ranches and farms from development. The truth is we're losing about 1,000 acres of land every year to development in Texas. And a lot of that is actually farmland. It's productive farmland, and it's either being fragmented and turned into like sort of large estates or into actual tract homes. To preserve the land's beauty and natural resources, I think that's a given, and to protect those river streams, wildlife habitats, and historical sites. But this one I'm also going to borrow from my friend Brent, my predecessor. He said to protect the land for your family and from your family. And that's very real. I've been at this gig for about 2 years, almost 2.25. And I've ran into a number of landowners who said, yeah, I don't care what my kids think. I know what they'll do. They're just going to sell the land. I want to protect it. Yeah. And the other thing too, though, is that there's scenarios where they'd say, I do care about my family, but I also don't want them to fight over the land. And when you put a conservation easement on the land, what you're doing is you're actually removing how much it can be developed. And it creates a context where I call it the sandbox, where basically you have a sandbox and you've removed most of the sand from the sandbox. So why are you going to throw that sand at somebody else's face when you want to keep it in your little space, right? You're actually removing how much there is to argue over if you set it up right. So it's a estate planning mechanism. So it's protecting for your family and from your family. And of course, people want to leave a legacy for future generations. I point this out to some landowners who I feel like are receptive. They are actually conserving life, like holistically. All that life on that land, all the generations of life on that land, the plants, the animals, the insects, all of that whole beautiful mosaic of ecosystem, they are saving from and protecting in perpetuity. They are literally saving life itself, in addition to the resource that we all rely on for our water supply, our quality of life, and certainly the quality of life for maybe their next of kin they may leave it to. I mean, it's a huge thing. And of course, there's some potential tax benefits, which I'll get to. But it's a legal agreement. It's literally custom tailored to every single land. There is people always say this, and it's true. There is no conservation easement that's the same from one property to the next. Every one of them is different because every land is different. Every landowner's interests are different. You can decide what you want to allow in the future and what you want to disallow. Some people say, oh, I don't want to have any hunting. And they can literally put that in the easement. A little bit hard to enforce, but they put it in the easement. They may say, I don't want to have any four-wheelers driving all over the place. Same thing. Or they may want to allow some of that stuff. They get to selectively figure out how they want their landscape to to be stewarded and what they want to allow in the future there, as long as it relates to how the land is cared for. And it's permanent. It is binding permanently. We have our job as a land trust is to enforce that easement in perpetuity to make sure that nobody violates it, and we have to do that through legal means and any other means that we have at our fingertips, financially or otherwise. So it's a when I was talking earlier about education is super important. I'm educating you guys. It's super important. It's fundamental to making the world a better place. So is policy if it's done well. It can make things so much better. I mean, heck, many of us get to enjoy freedoms because of really policy. It's really what it comes down to. The Constitution is policy. Okay. Let's keep it that way. And but the thing about the conservation easements is that they are very durable. They're very resistant, and to be blunt, they're also very nonpartisan. Conservatives and progressives alike support conservation easements. Even under current circumstances, you still have support for conservation coming out of the federal government. It is not one size versus another. It's not a bunch of tree huggers over there. People across the aisles realize it is of value to society to conserve land for lots of different reasons. And again, I said it's custom tailored. People can reserve building envelopes where they get to develop. They can withhold their property from the conservation easement. I have a guy I closed 228 acres with, and he kept about 20 acres out, 10 on this side of the property, 10 on that side of the property, 10 acres for each kid, honestly. So they had some resale value. And then he put a building envelope in the middle of the property. And I'm not sure how he's going to handle that with the kids, but he also specified that he wanted to allow ecotourism. He wants them to be able to monetize the land while protecting it. So it's highly customized so that it's holistically beneficial. You can limit the number of subdivisions. In his case, he's not allowing anybody to splice that land into two. It's that 228 acres is going to stay all together, period. You can establish no development zones. Hey, in most cases, there's an allowance. Hey, if you want to put a trail in, you can put a trail in. If you want to create a 2-track road where you take your Jeep, you can do that. But you can also say, yeah, but not there. That is verboten. That is out. You're not going to ever put anything there. You can establish criteria for land stewardship. So one of the things that's in our easement template, of course, is no non-native invasive plants. Actually, we say no non-native plants. And then people say, well, can I have some non-native plants inside my building envelope? And we say, sure, that's fine. And this is a negotiation with the landowner, as long as it's not invasive. Right? So that's one way that you can protect the land. We also have a criteria that you can't overgraze the land. The truth is that most of the land has been overgrazed. European land stewardship practice that they brought to the Americas was not very kind to the land, and it's eroded, and it's lost diversity, and it's lost productivity because of ignorant land stewardship. It wasn't informed by science. It was well intended, but it wasn't informed by science. And subsequently, it's been degraded. So we're trying to protect that so we can reverse that over time. And you can maintain the recreation, hunting, agricultural use, add fences, barns, everything else like that. And so here's an example. This is my board vice president, Tom Frost. This is his property. And he's actually got 2 easements. He's got one that's on the lower section. You can kind of see his house. Well, sorry, I'm off camera. That's his house, I think, right in this city. But he's got 2 easements. And one portion of his property he's leaving to his kids. The other portion he's leaving to the Civil Center for Conservation for their programming. So he's being a very benevolent gentleman. And those boxes that are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, those are his building envelopes. So in other words, he's still allowing for there to be some development value. The kids may be able to sell some of that land and get some monetary value out of it or build on it themselves. But the point is that the overwhelming majority of the land is not going to be turned into strip malls or housing developments. And the important thing to note is that landowners retain ownership of their land. They just voluntarily limit future development. And certain activities. They are able to sell it. They're able to give it to their next of kin. It is their land. It is still private property. We just have this easement which overlays on top of it, essentially, that protects the conservation value. And we're not going to carry this property. We're not going to agree to take the easement if we do not have a significant conservation value. And of course, it enshrines the good intentions of the landowner. They leave a legacy. It, like I said before, it helps with succession planning because it can help remove sand from the sandbox, as I put it. In some cases, they may say that they allow the land to be partitioned, and they may even set it up so that they plan to do that. But they know that the land as a whole will be managed in a relatively similar way because of the terms of the conservation easement, even as the sister gets that land and the brother gets that land with their building envelopes to develop. I'll talk about there's some estate tax relief because there's a lower appraised value for the land with the conservation easement, but also there's a federal income tax deduction. And so, for example, say you have this $6 million property and then you put a conservation easement on it and say it diminishes the value by about 40%. Well, that 2.4 million, that 40% diminishment is considered a charitable contribution that can be written off against federal income taxes for 16 years. Now, I may be talking to you guys, frankly, that are over here going, yeah, but I don't have a big property. But if you know somebody, I want you to be carrying this to them, to be blunt. Like, I'm not just telling you this just because, oh, it's interesting and it's a great research. It's because I want people to be talking about, conservation easements are really cool and that you get to protect your land, live on it, have resale value, leave it to your family, but make sure that it doesn't get destroyed. That is a powerful tool in our toolbox for conservation. I mean, a very powerful. Even the Department of Defense supports it. They have programs where they fund conservation easements to protect the military bases and to mitigate flood risk because they know that if they get more development gradient, uphill, upstream from them, that they're going to see more increased flooding in their military bases. In the case of Camp Bullis, they already have a landing strip that gets flooded regularly. They have lost 2 military contractors to flood waters that drowned. So they're trying to mitigate. They're actually working. They actually do a lot of funding. Joint Base San Antonio does a lot of funding for conservation easements. Now there is a cost, and this is a frustration for me because it's really hard. With some landowners, hey, they're flush and they can leverage that tax benefit, and that's awesome. Let's go. But some landowners can't. They're retired and they don't have that much money to write off, and they're land rich. Maybe they inherited something and they really care about it because their father cared about it, and the grandfather and the grandmother cared about it. I was out the other day and a woman was talking about how her grandmother cared about the land so much, and she doesn't have anything. I mean, I'm telling you, I'm guessing she has to plan her trips to town because she probably doesn't have very much for gas money. It's just the sense I had. I'm serious. But she cares so much about conserving her land that she's not interested in cashing out and taking cruises around the world for the rest of her life. She really wants to protect it because her mother cared so much for the land. That's that heart that I talked about, that so many people invest in the land conservation. And so that's where things like that Prop A, that bond that Kendall County passed, or Edwards Aquifer Protection Program, or up in Comal County, they're using state revolving fund dollars that are supposed to come through to support landowners to put their land into conservation. And it's perfect for those people that can't leverage the tax benefits. And I also think, it helps those people that have the heart for the land get over that hump and put their land into conservation. And so I'm just a big fan of public funding for this because they're giving up so much value in exchange for just maybe a few dollars, and in some cases, honestly, just not having to pay to protect their land. And that's pretty huge, guys. Because the stewardship has to be funded, we have to monitor it year after year after year. Every single year we monitor that property. And if we see an issue, we have to address that issue with the landowner. And if the landowner, as has happened in some cases, says, I want to do what I want, my land, we have to use legal means to stop them or to tell them to remove maybe the structure they built where they weren't supposed to. It's on us to do that, and we have to have the resources, we have to have the funds in place to protect that land. And so that's where most of the conservation easement cost comes in. This is my colleague, Donna Taylor. She's awesome. She's a Native Plant Society type. Some of y'all in the audience, I'm sure, know her. She's about to fly a drone. We were out on a ranch where it's a golden cheek warbler mitigation habitat. So developers were going to destroy some other area, and to offset that, they had to support conservation easement on this land. I mean, it's just covered in old growth juniper. But actually, I don't have it in the picture, but just to the side, actually this side of where she's standing, a neighboring landowner had come onto this easement with their bulldozer, and they had scraped around in the creek and they had jacked it up, and it was really, disrespectful. And so it fell upon me to make the tough phone call and say, hey, look, number one, this can't happen again. And if it does, we're going to sue you. And number two is you need to apologize. And number three is you're lucky you did it to a riparian zone that was already, it's kind of already flood impacting. And it should, and riparian zones, the stream sides are the most, well, it really depends on the circumstance, but they tend to be the parts of the property that recover the most, I don't want to say it, the most easily in the hill country. You get in the upland, when you scrape off all that down to like the Bear Caliche, the recovery time is generations. Down in the creek beds, it can happen easily within about, obviously generations for it to get to a full flourish, but you can get the vegetation status. Why? Because of the water. That's why. So just to give you guys a picture, this is again the Heart of Texas Conservancy is who I'm working for. When I started, we were closing about 1 or 2 conservation easements a year. Last year we closed 7. This year I expect to close 9. We're really blowing and going for a small land trust because it's only myself and my colleague Donna, and she's only like quarter time, but she's so awesome. It's like having her halftime. Anybody knows her, I've seen some smiles. She's a rock star. But this shows where our conservation easements are. We're all over essentially the southern hill country. We of course have a cluster in Boerne and Kendall County. We're kind of in that region. We're like a magnet for easements in that region. But yeah, we're all over the place. So if you know any landowners, I'm going to make this pitch to you. Please put them in touch with me. And the thing is that I do is first of all, I've got a lot of easements. I've got so many right now that to close that like we're good, such that if I feel like, hey, that landowner is a better fit for another land trust, I'm going to pair them up. One of the things I say about conservation organizations in general, but especially land trusts, is that we share the same mission. We just have different storefronts. We just have different logos and all that stuff. And I would vouch for any one of those groups. I know everybody, I know all the other people who run the other land trusts and work at the other land trusts. I know almost everybody is in the conservation world. And I would vouch for all of them. They all have heart, and they all are in it for all the right reasons, and they're serious about their work. And my real pitch to you guys really is to make sure that you're aware of this solution, that it's a very powerful, meaningful solution that's durable, but also that it really does matter for tax dollars to show up. That, in the case of Kendall County, it was like a pack of gum a month to help pay for these on the average taxpayer, about a pack of gums worth of money a month to pay for this amount of conservation. So if we pool our resources, if we work together, we're actually able to achieve magnificent outcomes that would not be achievable without, unquestionably. This is a book on the left by my predecessor, Brent Evans, who, of course, if you can't already tell, I'm super fond of, and John Freud, who is also a good friend. And it's one of the first books I'm aware of that talks about conservation efforts in a specific region, in this case, in the Texas Hill Country. So you'll learn about lots of different organizations, including, I'm sure, native plant societies, master naturalists, multiple different organizations like the Civil Center, Our Land Trust, the Hill Country Alliance, et cetera, and all the work that they're doing to conserve the Hill Country. And it's just a really magnificent, beautiful, essentially a coffee table book, but Brent's kind of a poet. And so it's also got some wonderful writing in it. I got to give him props. And if you'd like to support us, that's where you can do that. And I welcome you to ask me questions. I welcome you to go to our website, hearttexas.org. Check us out on Facebook. We were at the San Antonio Rodeo last weekend. We'll be at it this next weekend. It's a big event, of course, San Antonio Rodeo, but you can hunt us down. And it's fun because actually I was interviewed by some folks at the San Antonio Rodeo, and I gave them my standard pitch, land trust, and then I gave them another version of it. And then finally I said, all right, look, man, we're in this because we care about everyone. We care about humanity. We want to see everyone thrive, survive, and be, healthy and happy, including the natural world. And he goes, that's exactly what I wanted. And so he's posted on the San Antonio website that pitch, which I think really does represent who we are, that we're here because we care deeply from the heart. And it's as much a mission to support the natural environment as it is to support humanity, both. That's who we are. And so please get in touch, reach out to me, call me, seek my advice, whatever. I'm here. That's where you find me. Actually,
Two questions for you.
okay.
How combination coming into play, like if there's a large electrical power line coming through and stuff.
Yeah, so conservation easements, there are some very rare exceptions. Yeah, yes, ma'am. Thank you. So the question was, how does it work with condemnation, conservation easements and condemnation? And yeah, they do not inherently protect against against eminent domain. However, they have been proven to be a pretty darn useful tool to get uh, users of eminent domain to steer clear of properties. So for example, there was a pipeline that was going through Blanco County and it was going to go right through a conservation easement. And so the landowners, with the support of some conservancies, were able to encourage them to go the next property over. So I'm sure their neighbors weren't too psyched, but the reality is that these folks have put their land value where their heart is. That they said, this is how we want our land developed. We want it developed as a conservation easement, meaning it is developed. It can't be developed by saying it can't be developed, is saying it is developed as a nature space in a sense. But they haven't decided to do that. They're leaving it open to housing developments and all other stuff. It belongs over there. And I think that's a fair pitch.
Because you only have so much money to defend. If Elon Musk, or I come out and buy 10,000 acres and half of it has easement, bankrupt you because you won't be able to defend it.
Yeah. So, well, fortunately, there is some. I'm sorry. Thank you. The question is if Elon Musk decides, or an equivalent, somebody who's got resources that are just insane, decides they want to fight us, our conservation easements, ours or another land trust, etc. Okay, so first of all, with the Land Trust Alliance, which is a national organization, created basically an insurance group that we all pool funds into so that we can support each other as land trusts. And it's based on how many conservation easements you have to defend. And so you purchase that insurance. And every land trust I'm aware of purchases that insurance because without it, to your point, it's very hard to amass enough of a war chest to fight. Second thing, of course, is that as long you want to make sure your easements are very tight. And there was a scenario very recently, and I'm not going to name the organization, but they've had to go through legal battle after legal battle. So just like what you're talking about. Unfortunately, the language in the conservation easement was strong enough such that they have had a unanimous court decision, followed by unanimous court decision, followed by unanimous court decision. The question right now is this going to the state Supreme Court? But they're going to see that every single court has unanimously backed the terms of the easement. And so, the legal system does have some protection against that. And yes, I know all you need is an attorney to have a lawsuit, but you can't get to a point where it's like, you're not, where no, it's not even going to make it to court, basically. And so, yeah, we have to have some war chest, but at the same time, we're also able to aggregate our war chest through that insurance program. And they've been the other thing that we are seeing, to your point, is up in the Northeast, where land trusts have been around a lot longer. In fact, the first one was in Massachusetts, called the Trustees of the Reservation. But anyways, they've got a lot of these easements where they're starting to see those types of challenges. And so far, they tend to be successful as long as the language is strong in those conservation easements. And one of the things we do, like I'm going to go to a conference tomorrow, starting up in Austin, and we learn about, well, what are the things, what's happening in Texas, what's happening nationally, and we have attorneys there all over the place telling us, here's what you guys need to do to strengthen your conservation easement terms. Our attorney who does final review, he's actually a trial attorney that focuses on conservation easements. And so he knows about all the latest and greatest cases, and here's what the language you need to put into your easements to protect against that. Yeah. Yes.
So the Texas also has a wildlife easement exemption, and so is the wildlife and the land easement. you get about the same tax benefits?
Yeah, so this is different. Conservation easements are different. I think you're referring to wildlife tax valuations.
Yes.
And so the land is still vulnerable to development. It's just that you have a reduced tax burden because you are able to justify that you're managing the land for wildlife. It's really the same as a agricultural valuation. It's just that the emphasis is on wildlife. And it's not people call it exemption. It's not an exemption. It's simply a valuation, meaning you're not exempt from taxes. It's just you have a reduced tax for it. And that's totally different. Your land is not protected. It's just that you have reduced taxation while you keep carry that valuation. Yes, ma'am. So that's a funny thing. I mean, yeah, I kind of do a little bit of prospecting, like giving presentations like this, and I've given many others. But I work very closely with other land trusts, and when I was young in this, I say young, what 2 years ago, but nonetheless, I was talking to my friend at the Nature Conservancy, and I was like, I just hope I can get enough easements. Well, obviously that's happening, but and he goes, "What? They're going to come to you," and he was just that blunt. They're going to come to you. Don't worry about that. I was like, okay. Now, the truth is that we all want really big easements because it takes just as much effort to close a big easement as to close a small one. We're all in this to conserve as much land as possible. It's pretty exciting. I mean, the 1,500-acre easement's my largest yet. And I have to say that my heart just swells more. I mean, I love all the smaller ones, the 220-acre ones and all that. Great. But 1,500 acres, especially this one. So beautiful. This land it's probably some of the best stewarded land I've seen in the hill country. And I'm picky. And I mean, I'm really picky. I go on land, and I'm like, I want to conserve it. This is one where it's like, you can't not conserve this. This is just perfect, you know? So that's the stuff that gets us really excited. Because there's also a big chunk of of this work that's real estate transactions, frankly. Kind of boring, very legal, very due diligence oriented, deeds and surveys and title commitments and all kinds of stuff. And but at the end of the day, that's why we all do it. All of the land trusts, who I feel like I represent, and want to encourage you all to think all of them are awesome. Yes. Depends on the land trust. Our conservancy tends to be around 50 acres is our minimum. Now we'll sometimes waiver and go smaller than that for various reasons, like adjacency to our existing conservation easements. So we have, about 300 acres in conservation, and somebody came to us and said they want an easement on 27 acres. And even though, you're kind of like, yeah, but you're up against 300 acres. Well, that's now 327 contiguous acres. That's a habitat island that's bigger than it would have been before. So we do things like that. There's the Green Spaces Alliance here in San Antonio. They used to be known as the Bear Land Trust, very much involved in the Edwards Aquifer Protection Program. They're open to very small easements at times. I mean, down to like 6 or 7 acres. Most land, and I've handed them easements like that. I also have handed them easements that have been more urban, or we're just feeling like that's not quite our scene because it brings other potential complexities. More use of eminent domain, roadway expansions, pipelines, all sorts of stuff. Yes, sir. Jerry.
There's lots of degraded land in the hill country, and it continue to be degraded unless you do something to improve it.
Yeah.
So you have people like Brian Hummel suggesting the putting,
swales on contour,
sides, etc. Do y'all connect your landowners with people who have that kind of knowledge, RNRC people or something like this? Because
right?
I've been around the hill country a long time and it's continued to degrade.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. We have a long way to go to turn that ship as far as uninformed land stewardship. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be, the word ignorant has such a negative connotation, but I really mean it in the purest sense. They don't know better in many cases, or they're so ossified, they're so locked in on what grandpa and dad did that that's how they assume it's done. So the paradigm shifts slowly and they stay in a sort of a television of ignorance, right? And so to break that down, that's where education comes in. And to your point, yes, we connect landowners with resources as much as we can. And in truth, those infractions, those scenarios where people make a mistake, is often when they start to course correct and learn that there's a better way. So we had a landowner who really messed up their riparian area on purpose. They were almost creating this little mini river walk on their property. And we said, whoa, that is not how you should treat your stream side. Okay, what do I do? Well, here's how you do restoration. Well, all of a sudden they took off like wildfire working to do restoration across their entire landscape because they just caught the bug. And they would not have woken up. It's one of those weird things where it's like good and bad are mixed. You know, they took one step backwards and then that translated into 2 steps forward. So that's a positive outcome that can come of it. In some cases, though, like the gold cheek warbler habitat, we're going to leave it as old growth juniper. You know, right? We're not going to encourage that landowner to try to create a parkland mosaic out of it. It's what it's supposed to be. So, but yes, we do encourage better land stewardship. But it's just like, I mean, NRCS is doing that. Texas Parks and Wildlife do that. Rufus Stevens, I don't know if you know him. He's probably presented to this group sometime in the past. I officed with him, and he said it took him 5 visits to landowners before he would say, I really think you need to think about fencing off that riparian zone. So that's year 1. Year 2, same thing. I think you ought to consider fencing off that riparian zone, protect those plants. Year 3, think you ought to. Year 4, same thing. Year 5, Rufus, I was thinking I ought to fence off that riparian. And he said it was like clockwork. 5 years was that incubation period where it suddenly became their idea. And once it's their idea, you're golden. So, anything else?
Questions or one more question? For you to close?
It's like we're good. Hey, thank you all very much. And I appreciate y'all attending my State of the Union.
I'm not sure if I'm in the camera, but wanted to say thank you so much, Ben. That was really, really full of knowledge and heart, and I was really, really inspired by everything you say. And I think you make an interesting, dinner partner, because you probably have a lot of great stories to talk about. I was engaged with a few that you shared. But anyway, thank you very much. And I think that's it for this evening. Don't forget, our next meeting is at Breckenridge Park next month. And I hope some of you show up or everyone shows up. Thank you. Good night.